Hey guys, it's Carla. Today I'm starting with my raw sienna background as usual, and I've sketched on the outline of my stream. Now the traceable that I offer will have a more extensive outline of the whole painting, but I just wanted to start with the water. So I'm mixing up a color for my sky, and there's just a little section back there that has the sky, so I'm not bothering with painting that whole upper area, just where I know my sky is going to be showing. And I'm just using a flat synthetic brush for this. So now I've switched to a little bit smaller synthetic brush, and I'm using that same color and starting on my water. So the water back here, I want it to be kind of light, but as I come forward, I'll darken it a little bit. But I'm just very loosely scumbling this in. I want to keep my brush strokes going horizontal, just to give the effect of the water, but other than that, I'm just scumbling it on. And I'll speed this up so I don't bore you with it. Okay, now I'm going to start on my mountain, which is the most distant, besides the sky, it's the most distant plane. And I want it to be almost the shade of the sky, so that it's not very noticeable at all, which when it dries, it does darken a little bit, so you'll see it a little bit better, but I want it to be almost not noticeable. And now I'm going to start on my most distant trees, and because they're the most distant, I want them to be the lighter of the trees, lighter in color. So I'm just using a hog bristle brush and just tapping in a shape back there for one section of trees. And I'll come back later and soften the edges of those because they are in the distance, so they need to be, the edges need to be softer. So now I darkened it a little bit for my next section of trees, and I'm doing them the same way. So these are a little bit closer than those first ones. When you're doing a landscape, shade is important because things in the distance, there's more atmosphere between your eye and it, so it kind of fades it off a little bit. So the lighter you make things, the more distant they look, and the smaller you make them, the more distant they look. So now a little bit darker. I'm going to start on my third section of trees. All right, now my final section, my closest trees, I'm going to start with the shadow color, and then I'll go back and highlight it. So I'm starting with almost just a brown. It's like a brownish green, a greenish brown. So I just want to tap in that, just the shape with this dark color. And notice the bottom of these sections of trees, the bottom edge keeps coming closer and closer. All right, so now I want to put a little bit of blue into that, kind of a muted blue into that back section of trees. Blue helps to make things look more distant too, because there's a lot of blue in the atmosphere. So that's something to think about when you're painting landscapes. And then I'm going to use that same color to soften the edge of these trees right here. So I'm just tapping this in with the hog bristle brush. Now this section. All right, now I want to put some depth into these trees, and I'm not doing anything else to that most distant section. But as I come closer, you're going to see a little bit more detail. So I'm still leaving the edges soft, but I want to put some depth and texture into them. And then right here, I'm using the green to start forming little clumps of foliage in this little section of trees. But I don't want to cover up all of my dark, because I need that dark in there for the contrast. And now each little section, each little clump on the edges of it, I want to highlight it a little bit more. And just like when I put the green in and I didn't cover up all of my brown, now I'm putting this greenish yellow shade in, and I'm not covering up all my green. But I want to think about each little clump and form it to look natural. All right, now I'm putting in the green for my grass, and it's going to have a lot of highlight on top of it, but I need the base color to be this kind of medium to dark green. And I'll just speed through this so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay, now I'm just touching up, I'm using a flat brush and just touching up my water back there where I got some of the green in it. And now I'm using a little bit smaller hog bristle brush to clean up these edges, because the brush I was using before didn't get all the way down to the water. So again, I'll just speed this up. All right, now I want to put what looks like some ground right here at the bank that kind of fades off into the water. And I'm using a hog bristle brush for this. And again, I want to keep my strokes going horizontal because this is water. So even though the ground doesn't go in that angle, your brush strokes need to. And now with just brown, I'm going to put in some darker shades, still keeping my brush strokes horizontal. So this just kind of adds depth to the bank. All right, so now with the hog bristle brush, I'm going to start tapping in the highlight on the grass. And when I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the shape of everything, like the shape of my clumps of trees. I want to make sure that I get around the bottom of those right, and I want to make sure that I don't go all the way down to my water. So the highlight would be on the top of the grass, not on the bottom. So the bottom of the grass where it meets the ground needs to stay darker. And then the top needs to be lighter. And this is where you can kind of form these little peninsulas that come out into the water. And if you look at the reference photo, you can see kind of how these are shaped, or you can create your own shapes. But these highlights are what does that for you. It helps you to create different planes in the ground, and different, like the darker areas and the lighter areas show depth and dimension in the grass. So again, just pay attention to the reference photo and kind of how everything's shaped. And I'm just going to speed through this again and not bore you with the slow version. But even going fast, you can see how I'm leaving some darker gaps and stuff. So now I'm just putting in a little different flavor into the grass color. So this kind of warms it up a little bit with that raw sienna. But this is just personal preference. And, you could even, with this whole painting, you could make it a fall painting and just change the colors completely to fall colors. But this at least shows you how to do it. The colors you use are up to you. So just here and there, I'm not going crazy with this. I'm just here and there. I just want to put some of that warmer shade into the grass just because that's what I like, but you use what you like. Now I lightened it a little bit, but it's the same color, just a different shade, to kind of put some pops here and there of lighter grass. Now back here, I feel like it would be quite a bit lighter, so I'm lightening that up. Again, because it's in the distance, so things just tend to look lighter back there. So I'm just going to keep this in the distance and just gradually fade it off to the darker. right, now I want to start putting some, I guess you would call these shadows in the water. From some are from trees, some are from the ground, just whatever. But it adds some interest to the water and some contrast and some color. So it helps a lot. Again, whatever you do in the water, though, you got to keep your brush strokes horizontal. Your mind sometimes tries to tell you to follow the shape of the ground around it, but water is level, so you got to keep your brush strokes level. So now I'm just putting some light glares in the water. Just some little bright spots where the sun is reflecting off the water. But I want to use plenty of paint for this, just plain white paint so that it'll be bright. And now I'm just kind of blending those together and softening any areas that I think need it. Now this is a very watered down mixture, and I'm just darkening parts of the water because in order to make water look wet, you have to have some dark areas and some really bright areas. So this just kind of helps with that illusion, and it adds more color to it. All right, now with a small flat brush, I'm using the edge of it to put in some weeds that are kind of coming off the bank and some that are coming out of the water. So I'm just barely touching the canvas with it, with the very edge of the brush, the sharp edge of the brush. I'm starting with a kind of more of a brown shade. It's got some green in it, but more of a dark brown shade. And then I'll come back with the lighter shades on top of it. And you might notice that, like right now, they look like they're just pasted onto the water. They don't look like they really belong there. But now I'm taking some of that same color reflection down into the water. And I don't want the reflection to be a mirror image or anything, but just kind of the indication of a reflection. And then with white, I'm coming around it to kind of make it look like the water is hitting it and causing little ripples. So I'm just going a little lighter with my highlights just to make everything kind of pop. And that's it, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this one, and thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day, and God bless you.